being very appreciative of the fact of what we get to do and what we've been experiencing just since we've all been back together as this large lahui. So first thing I want to say is this nahulu kupuna, nale na alakai, nale na makua, nale na opio, nale na malihini, nale na ohana o waiva'a. To our esteemed elders that are here, I see many of our cousins, our older cousins that are here, and people that have been here for a while that we're here to honor. All of those that came before us that provided us with a pathway that we're here to reinforce, to acknowledge, and to strengthen as we move forward. Also, when I say the alakai, we have some distinguished guests. I think this is a first for us as a canoe team. Here in Kailua, we have our City Council Chair. I saw Tommy back there somewhere. Where's Tommy? And Council Member Esther Kia'aina that have come to join us today. The reason why I say it's significant is I wanted them to be able to experience what we all feel when we get together as part of this Va'a Lahui that we have. It's a day where we go back and we'll during just to give you a quick agenda of the day, we're going to ask Kahu Bisha to bless all of us. He's a Kahu up at Kamehameha Schools. He's done a number of things for us. He's been part of this. In the initial years, my mother would come down and we was at this part of it, and then I'll give you history later on. We're going to do a blessing. We're going to have some of the coaches just say some brief things initially, because I'm going to save their stories till after the blessing. And then I'll go through, I'll do our blessing of the canoes itself. I'll explain everything that I go through that part of it, and then I'll ask my cousin David. I know his brother Stu Boy won't talk. He told me yesterday I'm not talking, so David's been thinking about this for a long time, so I'm looking forward to that part of that. But I'm going to ask David to talk after that, and Rob Cates and different people here, just to give you some background of how fortunate we all are as an entity and as a canoe paddling community to talk about our history. You know, in Hawaiian culture and in everybody, you know, those that came before us are so important. Right? They're so important. We talk about our moku auhau. We'll not only talk about us as individuals, we'll talk about the moku auhau of the canoe, and the history of the canoe. You learn about the parts of the canoe. You learn that the steps you take, that you took yesterday, the steps you take today, and the steps that you'll take tomorrow are going to be part of that never-ending story that we're all a part of today. So I'd like to introduce Kahu Bisha, who'll come and he's going to be blessing us here. Kahu.
You're going to help me hold the boat on. Okay, now the reason I always like to include the younger generation. This is going to be your first year, right, Stanley? He said yes. So I remember when my kids, my youngest one was 10 years old. Well, actually, she was 9. You know, kind of got in early, but she started paddling over here at Kailua, along with all my other kids. And so this whole thing is about building up the next generation. And one of the things that we noticed about not having regatta and not having the canoe clubs around in the season is we kind of noticed that there was that missing part of building ourselves up, not just physically but also inside. And so now it's gonna start happening again, and I think it's gonna happen quickly. Okay, so you ready? Okay, hepuli kako. Let us begin with prayer. Okay, no kalai hova hana ai. For this is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. And Father, we are here today to ask for your blessing upon Kailua Canoe Club, upon Kaioni, and all that are involved. And for many years you have blessed this place, Kailua, with people and with all these activities that have been taught to us and brought forward from my community. And so with Kawai Ola, Water for Life, we ask for blessing upon each and every one. Kawai Ola, blessing upon all those that are part of Kaioni. Imau aku kaloko mai ka i o ka hapu Yesu Kristo. Ame ke aloha o ke akua. Ame ka launa pu'ana. Ame ka ohane he mo'elu. Come this end. by all the water for life, a blessing upon each and every one that is here. I mau aku ka loko mai kai o ka hapu Yesu Kristo. A me ke aloha o ke akua. A me ka launa puana. A me ka uhane he molele. Nā ke koke oi, nā ke akua. Oi. Nā ke akua, ke koke oi, pale atu. Aku mai oi, o I kaika mai oi. E malama mai oi. E mamua a e oi. O I kaika. Blessing upon each and every one. And for those that are the alakai, and the coaches, and the leaders, special blessing for you. That you will continue to guide and direct with integrity of heart and skillful hands. That you will be malama and pono in all that you do. O ka mea no ke au puni, a me ka mana, me ka ho'onani ia maulua aku. Amen. And for the next generation that Exodus represents, a blessing upon you. May you continue to grow in wisdom and in stature. And may you have favor with Keakua and with all men. Amen. And a cue applause. Yay!
Just like 4 hydro flasks in there. It's like ice water.
Technology. Just a short note on Kailua Beach Park. Kailua Beach Park has family here that we grew up with. The co-friend family of him, my Auntie Esther, who is everybody's auntie, was right up the road. We're on the road from my cousin David's house and all of them on the corner over there. So those are the mecca of canoe paddling was right up there on the corner. So what I'd like to do now, before we're going to do the blessing after, what I wanted to do first is introduce the leadership over here that Kailua is blessed with. Kailua Canoe Club, my cousin David's there, and Kim, and I know Micah, so you just acknowledge yourselves there. If you ever wonder who the governor of Kailua Beach is, it's Stu Kalama. He's back over here. I know you didn't want to embarrass him, but you got to do that part of that. And then at Kailua Canoe Club, our president is Julie Madden. Julie. And our head coach at Kailua Canoe Club is Rob Cates. What I'd like to do now is I'm just going to talk about the canoes a bit. I will do the canoe blessing. Or do you guys want to talk?
I would love to just say a quick thank you to Coyote, to our coaches. I'm not sure why the governor doesn't want to talk today because he usually has a lot to say. To Kamoa, who shows up all the time. To the coaches, this year I so appreciate the dedication and the time that it takes the coaches, the personal time that it takes for them to do what they do. I want to thank all the people who joined this year, who had the faith to show up and paddle. And it shows how important it is to the community. And I just feel so privileged to serve Kailua Canoe Club and to be the president this year. But mostly just thank you to our Coyote family who's here all the time. They incentivize us to be here. And again to Uncle Stu and all our coaches. So thank you so much. And our board members who are here. Thank you.
I know my cousin, this is my chance to take advantage of it, his quietness. Because I think I'm just asking him to say a few words and I'm going to start talking about the canoes and I'm going to really lean on him to give you folks history. So let me just talk a little bit and then I'll get you a second.
Well, the reason my brother doesn't want to talk, he uses up all his words during the week talking to everybody. So he's spent, so I don't know what to say really, other than, we lost our mother recently. And she was the backbone for the longest time with Coyote, and there's 8 of us that lived with them. What it was living with Stu was interesting. And he taught us a lot of stuff, and you know, I got no regrets. And now it's our job to pass it on, you know, and we got a lot of family, and you know, you can find one in Kalama everywhere you go. You know, just appreciate some of the things that we do, and the love that we have for this. For us, you know, with this canoe in general, this canoe has a lot of history with a lot of people that aren't even here today that still always want to know how it's doing and if it's still around. So I got the task of trying to keep it as best as I can, and I'm not all that good, but now I got to pass it on to somebody, and I don't know who's it gonna be. And right now Micah, he's my son that's willing to kind of like assume some of this, and I beat him up all the time. I beat him up all the time, and hopefully he's gonna grow into this, and one day we'll not be here, you know. And my brother Stuboy, he's taught me a lot of stuff. He's here and still here, and hopefully for a long time more. But I appreciate my cousin over here to do this spiritual thing, which I think I'm lacking. I need to learn it. But yeah, thank you. Come on.
We'll hear more from David in a minute. Just a couple of things. I think often we paddle a canoe, we go around with the canoe, we learn English names, English words for the canoe, and I think to really be able to feel the essence and the mana that we all experience from one another is to know the proper parts of the canoe in the Hawaiian words. And so if you look at the front of a canoe, it's manu ihu, right? So there was a song we grew up with, ku'upo, ku'umaka, ku'upepeau, ku'ihu, waha niho, ku'alelo. We learned that, right? And it was a song. So, but the ihu is the front of the canoe, so it's called the manu ihu. The back end of the canoe is called the manu hope. When you look at that, when you look at the gunnels, it's the mo'o. The seats of the canoe are called the noho anava'a. So just like you have somebody in the Hawaiian language who will say olalo Hawaii, will say ku'iluna, right? To stand. Noho ilalo, to sit down. That's the seat of the canoe. And then of course the ama and the yaku. And then, you know, every so often, I always get the pepeau. I remembered a lot. This is this part of the canoe here. As young children, as David will attest to, we often got our ears pulled because we weren't paying attention. But we must have David and I must have paid attention a little bit because we retained the knowledge that we have, and it was constantly reinforced. So I wanted to share that part of you with the canoes. And then when you look at the different canoes, as David had mentioned, I'll have him talk about the Manuiva, but when they brought the boat down the other day, very emotional. When you look at the name, the Manuiva, when we were children, you could tell, you know, right now there's a lot of discussion about being environmentally responsible, understanding how our actions impact everything that goes on in the sea and everything around us and the people. And when we were young, we knew that the ocean was healthy when the Manuiva birds would come from that side and fly up every morning. You don't see those now. There was a time, maybe a couple of years ago, that there was a flock of Manuiva going up, and said, "Oh, the ocean is healing." But that was after one of those crazy floods that happened, and nobody could go out on the water. And so every time I see that, it reminds me of that. And I think it also gives us an opportunity, each one individually, to understand the decisions that we make that have an impact on the generations to come. And so just the expectation that each one of us has for everybody else that we paddle, that we interact with, is to accept that kuleana that we all have, right? And being a part of the canoe lahui requires us to do that. So you become ambassadors of caring for the place, caring for the culture, caring for the people, and without knowing the history, it's difficult to do that. When you look at this place here that we live in, there's so many districts in Hawaii, but in the old days, the proper name for Oahu was not Oahu. It had a number of different names. Oahu got its name because of a chief. There was a terrific caretaker, and that's where the name of Oahu came from, to acknowledge what he did in the great actions. Every one of these canoes has a name that tells a story. You know, the Lanakila Malo Kalakahi, this log here was sold to us by Uncle Red Kanua from Kailua Canoe Club. But this canoe, the log was taken up to Kamehameha schools when Uncle Wright Bowman and Wright Jr. were up there and Fred Control and those folks. And our canoe club went up there and worked on this canoe, the entire canoe club, and that's where the name came from. Talk about many hands working together to emerge victorious. That's the history of this boat here. The Kalanakila, the Lanakila Malo Kolakai. The Kalanakila itself, this boat, as we all know, David, all of us growing up, the boat used to sit in a dairy before. There was a dairy where Target is, down there, Campus Dairy. And a man that owned the boat was this man named James Trask, James Lanakila Trask. So he named the boat after that. But it sat there with all of our uncles, Uncle Gabriel Joaquin and the Dodo Kapila and those folks, and it was part of Kailua Hawaiian Civic Club, and Kailua was able to obtain the boat from them. We bought it from them, but Kailua Canoe Club got its start with Kailua Hawaiian Civic Club, but we weren't the first Kailua Hawaiian Civic Club. As David and them know, but John McCandless and those folks, they were Kailua Hawaiian Civic Club Little One. Remember that part of it? They went through, and so it's part of the history, and that's why when the opportunity came for us to have a canoe blessing, it was only proper that we bring back those groups that were so integral in Kailua Canoe Club being able to even be a canoe club. And that's why I asked my cousin we've got to do this thing together. And it's a privilege to have them share that part of the genesis and the beginnings of who we are as a canoe club. All the canoe clubs on this side came out of Kaioni. There was a canoe club before Ko'olaupoku. And when you look at many of the canoe clubs throughout the state of Hawaii, you'll see that the different coaches emanated from these different places. But it's because these jewels of canoe paddling took it upon themselves, like your coaches do now, to set aside their time to share what's been very important to them because it's shaped their lives as we go forward. So the history is really critical when we look at these different canoes. The shapes of the canoes have changed. David and I were just talking about the other boat that they have. You know, how can we keep pace with the desire to be so competitive all the time? And competition is good. It keeps you sharp. But caring about people is more important than being the competitive aspect of it. So the neat thing about being in a canoe is it takes 6 people. It takes 6 people, and the kuleana that everybody has to care for that person in the boat that may not be as strong, may not be as talented, but has a shame, desire, and passion to want to put their best effort forward every day. And when you get into a canoe, it causes you to acclimate and to be responsible, but to be sensitive. It's just life experience as you go through, and you develop disciplines in the canoe that when you look out in the audience over here, I watch Robbie's dad was my coach, right? If I look back at Kailua Canoe Club, and I've shared this story with some of you that have been here before, I really looked forward to the day that I had my opportunity. Uncles, their family, we used to sit with 6 sticks in the stand up there by the boat ramp. And this was after pushing about an 800-pound boat, I thought it was, this blue boat from their yard on the corner on this, looked like our version of a golf cart, but it was a piece of wood with big tires. And we put the boat on and you'd rush it to the beach. That was part of the transition. And then if you're fortunate, you're given one of the sticks to go and paddle in the sand. Before you even get into the canoe. You know, before you even get into the canoe. And I remember going home when I finally got to get into the canoe. And the paddle was about this long for me. And I was paddling my heart out. But the thing is, when I hit the beach, I ran home to my mom, "Mom, I'm in a canoe." But I was 8 years old. It took me until 4 more years before I got to race, you know. But the whole idea was I had a family there, and I had somebody that was willing to coach. And it came out of Kailua Canoe Club. And they were so rich in the teaching. Uncle Heine and Grandpa Granberg. The thing about David and them, they had everything over there was big. The chicken, they had this chicken. It was like the movie, you know, the movie with the big chickens, Klondike Bill or whatever. They had this chicken that was bigger than our dogs. But everything was the Granbergs were the giants. You know, Grandpa Granberg was he was the man, you know. But the influence that they had despite their size, or in spite of their size, they had this warmth about them that they wanted us to excel at what we did. And in the Hawaiian culture, we talk about kule'a ikanu'u, striving for excellence. And as I was talking to my young nephew, Kalamaku, who just graduated from the University of Hawaii, there's a lot of room at the top. You have to move. And canoe paddling provides that opportunity for us to recognize the importance of discipline and strength. And so it goes so far. The other part too is, I woke up 2 o'clock this morning because my cousin thinks he gets nervous. I get nervous all the time. I just fake it, you know. And how I cover it, I just keep talking, you know. But I got up this morning and I was driving. I'm always influenced by a number of different things. And I was driving down here. There's this beautiful Anuenue, beautiful rainbow against the Ko'olau Mountains. Just bright and really strong, powerful rainbow. And what it tells you, my mother would talk about Ihaku ia mika Anuenue Unalani, and it's just the fragrance and the significance and the promise of the rainbow given to us from the heavens. And so coming down here, I said, "Oh, I'm going to be okay today. I can come down to the beach." And we're down here, and we're ready to do this stuff because we're supposed to do it as we go through. So just many things come through as we walk through. So what I'd like to do now is I'll go ahead and, do you want to talk a little bit?
It can be really dangerous.
So what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, I'd like you to talk about the history, talk about your family, because there are many people here that I know they just started this year, and even for our club, right? And I think them understanding the history of who we are as canoe paddling, as a canoe paddling community is critical, because as I've shared with you folks before, if you look at Kauhau Point from there out to Kawainui, this is one of the most heavily farmed areas in all of Hawaii. Kawainui was a very special place for farming up there, as far as when you go through and you look through different things that are there. They had, during times of famine, they had, only in Kawainui, they had this thing called lepo aia. It was like spirulina, that the Hawaiians would have to dive down and pick it up, but only in Kawainui. And we have a young navigator, Kailua Wang, who will be taking over some of the lo'i farming up in the old Makali'i Valley coming up. But Kailua Wang, every time he tells me, he says, "Uncle, I'm going to find the lepo aia." He's a scientist. And as we all know, growing up here, and when you hear about Old Hawaii was always was self-sustaining pre-Western contact. We had close to 1.3 million people, totally self-sustaining, but there was a kapu system. And a kapu system was a system of responsibility to those that are there, to caring for the community, caring for the animals and everything else, but there was science to it. So my dad would always say we're botanists, we're hydrologists, we can do it all as you go through. But again, Kawainui was that. Kailipulu Pond up here, the new residents up there talk about Kailipulu as being something, some refer to it as a swamp. Kailipulu is an ancient fish pond. And I'll tell you, just as recently as Monday, when I was coaching my wahine over here, there's a young boy running across the bridge. And he goes, Mom, come look at this. And she said, what are you looking at? He said, there's a seahorse down there. And so this, what people don't realize is this dirty water over here that they refer to is important to the seahorses. They come in here, they're like little snails. And I remember having someone from the University of Hawaii, they're no seahorses, you know. Just then, Boomer, one of her sons comes in and oh, I got one. We have to have him go put it back in the water. They don't realize it. And when you start seeing the fish hawks and the stilts and coming back, we know that what we're doing is right. We're caring for the Kailipulu. So over time, a number of us have gone up there and moved to the mangrove to bring it back to life so it's not suffocating. During the heavy rains, you'll see schools of fish coming down here. And every so often, when we do go into the lake, the barracuda will remind you that they're still there, right? And so there are many of them back there. But again, it's so critical for all of us to understand that canoe paddling and understanding the sense of place. And then when you look at culture, Hawaiian culture, right? In Hawaiian culture, we often talk about Pele. Well, Pele's sister, Hi'ako Pele, would come, her and Wahine Oma would come all through these coastlines. Many stories about that. And one of the special places that they would go to is up Kawainui and go up into the back. And they talk about that. So there are many stories that you can go ahead and wrap your arms around and get through. And you might ask me, well, come on, where did you get all this knowledge and stuff like that? I said, part of it I got because of my mom. My mom, Uniki, graduated as a hula teacher at a very young age. Her teacher was Antilokili Montgomery. Like with individuals, there's a hula genealogy, and her mokuaha, she's through the Ilalaole genealogy. But as a child, for me, my auntie Iolani Lohini was part of the Mai'oho family, whose family was tasked with taking care of the Lee's bones. She was up at Mauna Ala. So at the age of 5, I'd go up there with my mother grudgingly, not realizing how fortunate I was. And I would chant, before Mary Monarch, I would chant such as Kauliru, up there at the Io, and my mom would dance. And I got exposed to that. I got exposed to the fact that there are lava tubes that run under the mausoleum and petroglyphs and a whole number of things. And you get exposed to all those things. But I didn't realize then at that time that there was a kuleana for me to share that with you. So when you start looking at the strength of canoe paddling and the opportunity to do that, my mother would take me to a number of different places to going through. My auntie Pilai Paki, who wrote the words to that aloha chant that you see on people's shirts and everything, that later gave it to my mom, to Oli, which I'll share with you later today. She was instrumental in putting together the aloha law, which gives our legislators the opportunity to do what the spirit of the law calls for. And I'll share the experience with you. For me, the most vivid one was when in Kauai, there were 3 candidates for mayor. Mayor Baptiste was one of them. None of them had the majority. And what they did was they used the aloha law to select Mayor Baptiste was selected. And even there's an aloha legislation that gives the judges the opportunity to think behind the words as you go through. So there are different things that you're going to experience as you go through with people, and you're standing with them. You know, the opportunity to sit with Uncle Stu and listen to his stories. You think, this guy got a lot of stories, you know? But sometimes I'll come by him when he's telling somebody a story and they're looking at him with a little jaundiced eye. I say, no, it's real. He did that, you know. But again, just to give you guys familiar, and then I'll get to, I'm going to ask David to talk, and then I'll close it with the blessing, okay? These islands over here are all critical for us. The wind that blows in is called the Malana'i wind. Every area, different bays have different winds, but this is the Malana'i wind, this cool breeze that we have. That point over there is Mololani, is the place in ancient Hawaii where the red dirt meets the rocks. That's where in this part of the Aupua, we would often talk about, that's where the first man and woman were born. Kia Kahulilani, and were born right there. Were made right there by the rocks in the Hawaiian culture. When you go through, when you look at that little island out there that some of us refer to as bird shit, it's actually mokolea to the rocks. That's where the kolea bird comes back every year, and you see thousands of them swimming around there. The island on the other side is Mokumanu. The name there is for that place. It was actually, it's Moku Kapu. It was Kapu to the Ali on that part. In the old days, that front part there was like Hanama Bay. They used to feed the fish on that side, and that place there were all salt ponds. Because even as kids, my father would take us there, and we'd have to, Tommy Waters and Esther will appreciate this, we had to exercise our native Hawaiian gathering rights before the PASH case. And we would go there and pick up salt on that part of it. But just to give people an idea what, and then if you go over into Kailua Bay, there are all clam beds when you're kids. So it's not unusual to see why you have all the rejuvenation of all those fish ponds, Waikoloa Fish Pond, Paipai Oheia, out near where the Morgan family has been good caretakers of all the fish ponds. Those were all the fish ponds were on that part of it. But it's all part of it. The last part I'll tell you about this here is people don't realize how our stewardship of this bay and the other bay contributes to the fish population. I'm a director for Castle Foundation. We funded a study with the University of Hawaii. And what they did was they did genetic studies of the fish that are born. The currents will take them all the way out to Paina Point. And they come back in the tides, and they've been able to match up the descendants with the parents. So the fact how we treat this ocean here impacts the fish population as we go through, just to understand the role that we have as part of this canoe paddling lahui over here. So, and then this island over here, the island they call Fat Island, is actually called Pupu'i Island. And that was an island that people would actually put offerings, and then during times of famine you could go there and grab the food to eat it. And then Mokunui and Moku'iki up here on Manana Island on the far end. And on Manana Island, quick story, there's a guy Cummings that had a plantation in Waimanoa. He actually tried to raise rabbits on that island. That's where that name came from, but he was unsuccessful. So, just short story. So, David, your time. You're ready to do that.
Excuse me. Okay. Like Kamoa was saying, you know, he went through a lot trying to woke up early. I wake up early too. And this whole week I'm wondering what I'm going to say. I mean, Kamoa said, you got to say something. And the whole week long is thousands of things entered my mind about my experiences from probably birth, you know, and I don't know. I'm not the kind of guy to stand in front of all these people and say stuff. I'd rather get you one-on-one. But you know what? I'm getting better, I think. I'm getting more relaxed at trying to say, because I realized years ago that all the guys with age, you know, with the white hair, which I got now, had wisdom. You know, they had knowledge. I didn't realize I was getting it from them. I didn't realize it at all. And so anyway, born into a paddling family, you guys need to understand, for us it's pretty difficult. A lot of things that were told to us to do, we had no choice. We just did them. Never said why. And you know, for me, these boats are just part of our life, and what I was raised to understand, that this was larger than life. This was larger than any one of you. And the respect that you have for these boats are today neglected. There's still things that are not taught, because a lot of the teachers, all the coaches now, they don't even know what it was that they need to teach. They just know what they know and things that they learned at the point where they start their journey to be a coach or a paddler, right? But I was a paddler from birth. Probably my mom, and you know, so Shirley was married to my dad, right? That's my stepmom, and we did a lot together. She you know, I think I did more with her than my real mom. But my real mom just had this natural ability to just make you what you are without even talking to you. She just had that feeling, and everybody that knew her would basically say, you had the nicest mom. And I did. I had a good family. I had good upbringing. Grandpa, grandma, they kind of like, they molded me. They said stuff. Every day I walk around and I think of grandma. I don't really try to make mistakes because of that. I think that they're still here to do something, pull my ear, put chili pepper in my mouth when I talk, any kind. It was crazy how she addressed things with me. But okay, you're into a canoe paddling family, you learn all these different things. And if you look at this rig, I'm trying to keep it traditional. We did well with this rig. I just redid the yakus, and for me to see change, I mean, change is always good, right? We get unlimiteds that are coming out, the OC ones. Now I'm kind of like in the business of doing the V1, which is based out of Tahiti. But I still want to understand this more as I'm learning that the change is good, but I want to stay traditional. So I went with my old traditional. This armor, I started it when I was 12. I finished it when I was 16, and we used it and we were successful. The yakus, what this did was, to go to the mountain with my father was kind of a trip, because we go and select a yaku. You go to the forest, you look up, you think you got the right one, you go home and it's the wrong one. And you're still learning. You're learning about all these things, and so the rules used to apply. That your canoe needed to be at least 3/4 log. If you see all the patches, how do you figure out if it's still log or whatever it is, right? The armor needed to be wheelie, and for some reason along the line, everything changed. You see a lot of prefabricated, boats with armors that are typical of everybody else's. The yakus are typical of everybody else's. But learning is simple now. You just got to learn how to tie. You don't learn how to actually do them. So to find people with the knowledge to teach you the old traditions, and I was pretty hot head, but I'm crazy. My brother taught me a lot of stuff, and I got to give him a lot of credit. He actually did this boat. If you look at Manuiva, it was a fishing canoe. It was really, really short and narrow. And for one reason, when they started changing rules on how the canoe needed to be constructed and all the measurements, they never considered this boat. This boat was narrow, short, probably had more of the numbers that wouldn't qualify to be allowed to use, right? But everybody used to complain because we go out there and the boat was too narrow to take the big ice. Everybody wanted to make it bigger. So Stuboy got his skill saw, went down the middle, widened it. He was doing things that nobody else was doing. And I started to get crazy. And then I wanted to make it longer because everybody else said that, right? So I went home and told my father, you know what, I'll make them longer. He goes, the hell with that. Then he told me, he said, I'm going to go up to the farm. When I come back, it better be back together. So I told my brother, okay, we got, okay, let's go. I'm ready, let's go. We get the skill saw, put them on the horses, cut them, extend them, tie the pieces. And for me, it was like veins. When I talk about the life of the boat, I actually connected 3 parts to keep the veins, keep the heart pumping. And that was my interpretation of at least putting it back together. So on the front and the back, and I made it longer. And after that, everybody's doing these things. They're creating this stuff. But I learned a lot, and I'm trying to pass it on. I'm trying to teach it to whoever wants to learn, for one. But Micah's getting like I said, I appreciate him every day, because there's a lot of things I cannot do, and he can. He's got they got the modern technology. I'm not that guy. But what we need to do is keep tradition somewhat long enough that it's not forgotten. Because when I'm gone and people like me are gone, sometimes you're gonna look around, because I do the same thing. My father was always there, and I go, oh, what about this and what about that? At least I had an answer. I don't even know all that he knew, but I'm still limited in trying to resource the right answer for everything that's being done. But this boat is a life to us. It's something that we really we cherish more than you know. And I'm not the only one. There's so many people out there that's still not here today that are alive, probably in their 90s, a lot of them, asking about this boat because it was so much a part of their life. And this was a jungle gym. You can imagine, I used to put my legs on there and swing, and then, you know, kicking the ass, and you know that was part of my discipline, you know, learning. You don't step over the boat, you don't drag them. I see boats getting dragged all the time. I was just sharing with some of our paddlers this morning. I got 98% brand new. They're all B paddlers, and my goal is to make them you know, recognized. You know, they're gonna get appreciated when we're through with them. But we carried the boat. We were 12 and unders carrying the boat, right? Always carrying the boat, never dragging them. And every day, it's so simple for everybody to just not care and drag the boat. That is not Pono. That is not what we do. And how do we make everybody do that? So, you know, like I said, this can be dangerous me up here because I started thinking about all these things. So, you know, you're in a paddling family. You don't leave Kailua. It's like the syndicate. You leave them. It's like, what's going to happen to you, right? I didn't have a crew. So I went to Kailua for a little while because I was asked. And Kailua was a club with unbelievable, you know, nice people. I mean, the Hanleys they're amazing people. They're talented too. So everywhere you go, you're going to find those guys. And so I had a journey with them, did well. Surf Sports, another club that we're a part of, we went there. Waimanalo, because I lived there. One day, Al Lewis, he was a big part of Waimanalo, and he comes up to me, he goes, "Bruh, you live in Waimanalo, why not help us?" And it came available. I did go there, and I gotta say, we got them their first championship that year. The club went from dark to white, and it was all freaking out because I was bringing who I had. I had a lot of military guys, and you know, we did well over there. But that's my passion. Wherever I go, you know, it's second is the first loser. I know that's not a good thing to say to everybody, but it is. And you know, I feel like when I'm on the ocean and I'm paddling, everybody's watching only me, just me. I'm out there, and I got this pressure that I put on myself, and I gotta do well because of that. And that wasn't the case. Nobody even saw me race, you know. And I go back to my mother, right, my birth mother. She never even saw me race, ever, until probably she passed away, you know. And that's what they say, right? When you're up there, you can look down. But I remember one race at Kailua Bay, 12 and under. Our steersman wasn't coming. I was stroking. My uncle says, "You're gonna steer tomorrow?" I'm like, "Uncle, I don't know how." "Well, go home, tell your mom to teach you how." So I go home. "Ma, Uncle said I'm gonna steer tomorrow." I scared. No, I said, "Get the chair, get the broom. Okay, you let go left, poke left. You let go right, poke right." But first thing, son, you gotta paddle. You gotta paddle the whole way. And I'm thinking we're gonna lose, and we was undefeated till the end. And I'm like, pressure. But anyway, long story short, we won by more than we ever won, and it continued. You know, for me, it continues to always be like that. I just don't know how to lose. And when I do, I can accept it. I learn to accept losing. You know, it's funny because Mike said this morning we're rigging the boat, and I'm scolding him like I got scolding, and he goes, "Dad, we're only trying to learn." Yeah, just shut up and do them. You know what I mean? Like, let's get it done. We don't have time. Let's just get it done. But so in my way that I do stuff, you know, I gotta apologize to people. I don't know how many people we've encountered, and again, we did some crazy stuff, Kim and I. We never had members, and we used to drive around. What are we gonna do today? Let's go drive around and look for paddlers. And people that know us, they know this story well. And we'd be driving, and I go, "How's that one? That one look good." So I drive to the corner, I go get Kim, jump out, and go chase them. And so I meet you out the corner. She's chasing, running with them, and she's talking to me. "You like paddle?" And you know, there's people out there that just freak out. And this one was in particular, was Windward Passage, and we were going by the old, Holiday Mart, and we see this girl running. So we do that. It's 9:30 at night. Kim is chasing her, and she's running for her life. And she gets in the car there, and she goes, "Don't hurt me." Kim goes, "No, did you ever paddle before?" You know, and you know, that was amazing. And I remember them all the people that we've ever had. And the story's not going to end. I mean, I can stay here all day long. There's so many stories, and they're good stories. They're good memories, and you know, until Alzheimer comes around, I don't know. I'm so glad I can still remember them because there's a lot of good times. And, you know, like my kid sister, I texted her yesterday, you know, what we're going to do, be here. And she texted me back one real interesting text. And you know, she gives a lot of credit to my wife Kim and Stu Boy's wife Bernie for dealing with us, because you know, we don't realize, you know, we don't realize the pressure we put them in. And I feel sorry for Bernie. Probably Stu Boy feels sorry for Kim. And you know, what the hell? That's how it goes. You know what I mean? We're down here just trying to do the best we can do. So again, everybody, all you new paddlers, you know, there's a future for you. There's a bright future. I hope you guys have the same journey that we had. It was nice, you know. And you know, they say, oh, don't mention the part about John, right? So I got to mention the part about Johnny Poquer, right? Johnny Poquer was like, he was like the son that I wanted to have, but he was a pain in the ass. And I met him like right here, right? And nobody wanted to coach this guy. And so we had him for a while. And, you know, I was like, John, what you gonna do with your life? And a lot of people don't realize his journey. He started in our yard. And I made a little place. He wanted to do things. And so Tommy Connors offered him a mold. And so he was doing surf skis. And every day I'm coming home and I'm, you gotta clean up. Every day was like that. And John was like the son, you know, and Kim was his mom more than I was his dad. And I knew his dad and his mom well. And there was a good relationship between the Poquers and us. And, you know, I kept encouraging him to do more. And, you know, I'm happy to see him doing these things. And you know what, the unlimited boats aren't really that bad in a way, because my father didn't want me to advance the sport like that. I think he told me some things that, and I wanted to go faster. I wanted to, you know, just exhibit talent if I had it, and design and understanding all those things. And, you know, like right now we're running out of time. So anyway, long story short, I got family. I got grandkids over here now, and they got the same pressure, but it's different. It's a little bit different. If they want it, they can have it. If they don't want it, then that's fine. And I tell the paddlers that, how much can you take? Because I can actually give you a lot. And I'm real careful, like not with especially with new paddlers. I'm like, well, if I be myself, they might quit. We're not gonna have members. So you know what? Take it slow and take it easy. And I want them to come tell me, like, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to do this, and let's step it up a notch. But again, I'm excited for the year. Personally, I feel like I got one dream team for me, and I tell them that. I tell them, you know what? Thank you for coming to give us somebody to work with, because that's the hardest part. Finding paddlers that want to paddle with you, especially brand new ones. And I welcome anybody. And you know, I just want to share something. You know, we lost somebody. Besides, you know, my stepmom, you know, there's a few people. Ron Coteen, Ron and I had an idea to do stuff. I wanted to do with him. He passed. And you know, there was somebody I met recently, and we had a conversation. You know, he just passed, you know, a few days ago. And, you know, Michelle and everybody, you know, our heart goes out to you. This kid made an impact on me just talking to him across there, and he was in a little scooter thing, and I had this idea that I was going to get him in a canoe somehow and just have him experience that the best he could. And that's what we're willing to do. We're willing to take the ones that nobody else wants. And I don't want to say it to my paddlers in that way. You know what I mean? I tell you what I'm afraid of is they're going to steal you from me after we're done. And usually after 3 years, oh, okay, it's all over. We got to start all over again, Kim. Just go chase people down the road. But other than that, I mean, I'm around. You know, I'm willing to share knowledge. I know my brother, he does a lot, and he definitely got a lot of knowledge. He should be up here. He should be up here saying stuff, but you know. There she is. Yeah. You know, so you know, my sisters, my brother, everybody, we were raised by, you know, the right people, I would say, and we're hothead. We are, and Kalamas are kind of hothead. And we when we get confident and we know what we're talking about, we're gonna let you know. I think I'm the most reasonable. I want to say I'm the nicest guy. Yeah? Okay, we'll keep it like that, and hit me up. You know, if you guys ever got any.
He is the nicest one.
Excuse me.
Okay, what I'm gonna do with you now is I'm gonna bless the canoes after the siren goes by. The oli that I'll share with you are ancient oli. The first oli that I share with you, it's called Ona Kumuakoi Hanau Ia Ikapoi Kalahiki Ku Eo Mai Kikai Mai. What this calls on, we're people of the sea. So just this morning we had a family whose ohana had passed away. They flew in from Louisiana. They did his celebration of life out there. My brother Charlie helped them with the canoe. They went out there, but we're people of the sea. So this first oli that I share with you is that it's calling on all of our ancestors that have come before us to rise up out of the sea and give us strength. And so the reason why I share that with you is because you have to know that when you're paddling these canoes, there are many that came before you. But every stroke that you take, you're not taking it alone. You're taking it with the strength of all of those that put time into these canoes, your coaches. Every stroke that you take, that's the kuleana and strength that you're carrying with you on that. So that's where that is. And what it does is it goes back from Akua, from I'o and God to your grandparents to your children. So that's the first chant that I'll share with you. So you'll hear that. And I'll just put my fingers up to tell you what the second one is when it's coming on. The second chant will be part of my genealogy. And what I'll do is I'll go back to about the 13th century. And I'll just cite names that'll come through. And then I'll cite the names of the places. And that'll be the second chant. And what I'll say is Eiaoe. Like Eiaoe Kihanui Lulumoku. That was about the 13th century. Eiaoe Leloa. Eiaoe Umi. That's I am them. I represent them. Just like David was talking about his family. And I was fortunate enough to slip away from that syndicate. But little did I know that I'd be right back in it like this. So that's what it is. We were able to go off and help strengthen other canoe clubs as we go through. But that would be my second chant. Okay, and then the third chant I'll use for you is an ancient chant that the kahuna would go ahead and bless the canoes with. And basically it says that I'll honor the canoe clubs. I'll say that, but as I'm blessing the canoes, but I'll also say to keep us to keep us steady, upright, to help us avoid the reefs and the waves, and help us to basically return to the shore safely. I'll also be a part of it where I say Ia Aloha, Ia Kahana, Ia Poloha Nui. What we offer as a gift, what we offer as a gift is our friendship, our love for one another, and our care. Okay, and then the last chant that I'll share with you is a chant of Aloha. As I referenced earlier, Antipilai wrote it in 1952. We were living on our second house. The first house over here got condemned on the beach, so they made park. So we moved across the street to 4658 Kailua Road. Antipilai had come to my mom's house. My mother had got upset with my dad and pawned her pahu drum that Daddy Bray made. And Antipilai came to our house and I said, Auntie, why do you have my mom's pahu drum? And my auntie started chanting, went into the house, asked my mom. I told Mom, there's a lady out there, Auntie got your pahu drum. Anyway, long story short, Antipilai came into the house, gave my mother this chant and asked her to put it to oli, which I'll share with you. And basically, it goes through the word aloha. A for Akahaina Hawaii, which speaks to the importance of kindness. Showing kindness to everybody that you come in contact with. And as my cousin David had talked about, being very abrupt, being very constructive in his comments. Showing kindness will be being constructively critical, telling you that you need to get better at what you do, or if you've gone astray a bit. That's what the first letter means in the word aloha. The second letter, L, is for the Hawaiian word lokahi. We're a group. We're much better together as a group than being separate. Lokahi akulike. It talks about family, it talks about cooperation, it talks about the strength that exists in that. The third letter is O, for the Hawaiian word olu olu, to be agreeable, to look for consensus, to look for ways to find solutions. The letter H is for the Hawaiian word ha'a ha'a, which speaks to the importance of being of serving others and to be humble. You know, all of us in our own individual ways will lead, but great leaders are good servants. I got my two friends over here, Esther and Tommy, exhibiting that. Tommy, long-time canoe paddler, Huilana Kailua Canoe Club. Never quite made it to Kailua, but that's okay. Esther and I have been friends for a long time. One of the most intelligent people that I know, has done great work for Hawaii, working in Washington, D.C. for the longest of times, and then came back home here to help serve us here in this county. So, mahalo for you, Esther, on that. And that when we talk about that word ha'a ha'a, that servant leadership. I will tell you one short story about Esther, like into the chant. One of the highlights of when I was working on the sovereignty legislation I met with Esther in the gray building next to the White House. As close as I got to the White House. I'm sure she got in it, but we had a meeting there in the executive building. But I had great times with Esther. I was very happy when she came home to Hawaii to serve us in this capacity. So mahalo to you folks. The last letter is a word, ahu nui, which talks about the importance of patience and perseverance. So the saying, ahu nui ala nakila. Through patience and perseverance, you can emerge victorious and successful. But really, it's a message of love and caring. And the rest of the chant that you'll hear me talk about as I chant it through with emotion is basically, we have the youngsters here, we have our kupuna that we're here. It's our kuleana, our responsibility to continue to pass this down from generation to generation. So that's what's going to be caught up in the blessings that I share with you. This thing that I'm holding here is called an umeke. It was made for me when I was a trustee at Kamehameha, so I thought it would bring them mana and all of Pauahi and the great work that she's done for Hawaii through Kamehameha schools and everything to be a part of our day. Can't get away from being modern too much, so I brought the glad bag. But in the glad bag, what I brought with me was all of these plants here were planted in my yard from my parents. And they're all from plants that are 35 years old. These are descendants of that. So this tea leaf was planted by my mother. This here is called a la'amea. La'amea, this is what they used to make uli uli, or Hawaiian instruments. And so I have it growing in my yard, and there's a seed in here. And so what I'll do is I'll crack it, it'll come out, and then you put it back together, it becomes very shiny. But the music is so important to all of us as we go through. So this is to reflect part of that. And this is a green la'amea. Right? I brought a guava from our yard that my parents planted. They end up getting like apples. But I have my own bird farm in the back, but I just open the guavas up and all the birds come and eat in the backyard. So this is, again, to talk about life. And then the guava shoot itself, when you start looking at it from the guava tree, this thing is very medicinally powerful for healing and different things. And so just to bring part of that mana that my parents shared with us. And I know my pua kinikini is in here because this one hasn't bloomed yet, and you can see the little baby just coming up. But pua kinikini, you can see some leaves that are here, terrific fragrance coming through. But then this is symbolic of who we are. We go from here to that, from the ground to the beautiful flower, that we get to share it with everyone. So it's that, this is all part of the makana, or the gift that I bring with me, that provides me with the strength to, and the opportunity to serve in this capacity. Someday, you know, I'm 66 years old. I've been involved in canoe paddling since I was 5. I did my first distance race when I was 13. I've been fortunate to be part of Kailua Canoe Club all that time. There are times when I was in races behind David and Stu, but sometimes in front. It's all good. But again, the experience has been great. You know, some days despite my age, my wife will tell me I'm still acting like a kid. You know, but I'll tell you this: being around canoe paddling, you go in the ocean, it just rejuvenates you, because the ocean causes you to want to be humble, have to be humble. You have to respect it. You learn so much about everything. So I'll start the chants now, so you can just bow your heads. Ona kumoa kua pau I hanau ia I ka poe kalahiki ku. E o mai ki kai mai. Ona lalali ia pau I hanau ia I ka poe kalahiki ku. E o mai ki kai mai. Ona veluali ia pau I hanau ia I ka poe kalahiki ku. E o mai ki kai mai. Ona puali ia pau I hanau ia I ka poe kalahiki ku. E o mai ki kai mai. E Yahweh ki henui lulu moku Yahweh lilo Yahweh umi. Yahweh ua unu ia mai, Yahweh ua koe lau. Yahweh ka ia, Yahweh ka wahini kuri o ka hili o pua. Yahweh ka honohi o ka la. Yahweh ku o malie, Yahweh keiki lani wahini e lili o pua na hiwa ka le. Yahweh ka e ka maha ki kau ilani. Yahweh ka mohaiki o ka lani. Paliko nā mauna kea, paliko nā mauna loa, paliko nā hualalai, paliko nā halea ka la, paliko nā ko lau. E mo kuali I kupahi he lea. Kua pāna wā hoi wā ohana. Ia ko aloha, ia kahana, ia ho aloha nui. He uku he makana he alana e mohai oko. Ai ho lana I aku ana I ke kai. O kana ia e huli I kālawa a meka pai pai. E nana ponolo oko. E makali nā pu koa nā pu po aku no kahilo papa na nalu nalo no kamoana. Ele ai ka wha na lukai. A apulu. Alimu paka I e o kaniko ko. A mama ua noa. A mama ua noa. A mama ua noa. Ke aloha I e. Ke aloha I e. Akahaina vai I. O kaya kuli ke. Olu olu ka manao. Ako kulana. Ya honu ya lana kila. Ya dwa I aloha I aloha I aloha mai e na Hawaii. He aloha kau mea nui. He o mai na Hawaii. Na puana leina mamo. He hala mai kalahui. Laulai he kaulana. He o mai ka lehu lehu. Ai e o Hawaii. Ya dwa I aloha I Me ka pu'u vai ha'a mahalo ya oi o ko, mahalo, aloha. I know we're going through a tough physical time, so if you don't want to hold hands, don't do that. But what I'd like to do, I know people are planning on eating after this. Let's just sing the doxology, and then we can say mahalo to Keakua, mahalo to all of you folks for sharing in this experience and sharing with us, okay? Punani kama. I know we have singers. All right. Have a great year.
May 28th, Kailua Beach Park, Oni and Kailua Canoe Club. Blessing. Aloha.
I'm so sorry for saying I thought you were crying. I was like,
I cry very easily. No, my About what?
no, never. Yeah.
I think I awesome.
Yeah, but we raced in different boats. We raced in like modern boats that weren't our own.
Can I go by the boat?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Sorry.